Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Extra Time TV. This is Andres Soklal, and today we're going to speak about the matchup, the rematch, whatever you want to call it. The United States take on Trinidad and Tobago in the Gold Cup. There's a lot of history, a lot of recent history between the two teams, but these two teams have had a pretty interesting rivalry over the years, especially from the Trinidad and Tobago end. For those of you who don't know, and you should know, the denial into the 1990 World Cup in Italy. It was really sad. I was a kid when I was looking at that game, which wasn't too long ago. Hopefully. But recently, they were denied entry into Russia from a wonderful strike from Alvin Jones, who won that game. And, it didn't go down well. There was a lot of hype and banter between the two teams. There was a Twitter post, which kind of fanned the flames between the two teams, and then, a lot of people saying it was karma. These guys on ESPN were angry because the US invested a lot of money into getting into this tournament. So, what is the initial reaction to this particular matchup? Did the footballing gods smile upon the United States?
I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's that little bit of fate, that little bit of destiny.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the American pride and their belief in themselves goes above and beyond. Mm-hmm. So they themselves are going to want to come out there and give us a taste of our own medicine.
Mm-hmm. And the United States have not been doing well. They had an interim coach, and the friendlies before the tournament have not been convincing. In fact, it was downright bad, to be honest. It's pretty poor. There's no way to really sugarcoat it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut to a break, and when we get back, we're going to speak about the formations, tactics, and all that jolly stuff. Just a reminder, everyone, for more episodes with Shaka Hislop, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, interviews, and content.
You must think first, before you move.
Impressive. Brutality.
Okay, welcome back, folks. So we're going to head straight into the analysis of the particular game. So the first thing we're going to look into is the actual formations. Trinidad recently played Japan. It was a 0-0 draw. And, Trinidad basically was on the defensive end for most of the game. Marvin Phillip had an outstanding game. Japan is a really tough team. Nagatomo and those guys are top-class players. I say that because, Inter Milan. No, but he's a really solid player. They have a really solid team, and getting a 0-0 result is great. But, if you look at the statistics, they obviously dominated the game. Going into the game, a lot of people were criticizing the defense. They were saying that, Marvin Phillip was outstanding, but the amount of chances created is a worry. They are heading into the actual game where they played a closed-door practice game against Canada, which I think they lost 2-0.
Right.
So throughout Dennis Lawrence's reign as a coach, he seems to favor one forward, usually flanked by two wingers. In the last game, he had one defensive midfielder with Kevin George and Marvin Phillip in goal. So he played a back four with a solitary defensive midfield. At least that's how it was reported, because it was very difficult to see the game. That's which is the entire topic altogether. So what do you think is Dennis Lawrence going to play? What formation do you think he's going to play?
More than likely, it's going to be a 4-2-3-1.
Mm-hmm.
With that, probably the quote-unquote number 10 role.
Mm-hmm.
I foresee probably Highland occupying that role.
Mm-hmm.
As is the first match against Panama as well. He's probably going to play George defensive midfield, possibly Paul, depending on how training is going. And the back four also has question marks over it. Khalil Mitchell, he looked to have that spot alongside Cyrus showing up, but then he pulled up versus Canada, so that probably opens the door for Curtis Gonzalez to come in. And then the real question, I think, is up top. Because Trinidad and Tobago has not scored a goal in, I think, probably over 600 minutes.
Yep, that is a worrying stat.
So, and I actually see probably Kevin Molino ending up playing that false nine position with Jovan Jones and maybe Levi Garcia or Cordell Cato flanking.
Because in previous years, when Stephen Hart was around, I know he used Trevin Caesar a couple times, and this is Stephen Hart as a false nine. And it seems as if they were dabbling in that possible tactical variation. Willis Plaza was originally on the provisional squad, but he's out for I think visa issues, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Dennis had him in mind when he was building the squad, and obviously with that unforeseen scenario, he had to make adjustments. And just building on what you said, if you had to choose someone who was starting, I know you mentioned Kevin Molino, there's Winchester, and Levi. Who do you think would be the guy he would start most likely?
Molino. Molino is probably the most informed out of a number of out-of-form players. When Shadon has not been informed or even played competitive football in a number of months, and the rustiness showed versus Canada. So I don't expect to see him to start, especially in that first game where it's all important to get our 3 points up front. So I could either see Molino, and he will probably have it as a shifting rotation because he has played Levi Garcia in that forward position on numerous occasions. So it's probably going to be a fluid attack.
Yep. And the thing is, we are fortunately blessed with some very talented wide players, some talented dribbling players in the false nine mold. So it's really interesting to see how Kevin Molino fares in that role. I agree with you. I think my best educated guess is that Kevin would be the guy, with possibly Levi jumping in that position.
Yeah.
And also Shadon. But you raised a valuable point about match fitness. A lot of these guys have not played for a significant amount of time. We're entering an international competition. We played 2 friendlies. A lot of people criticize the distance, the logistical nature, but that's another topic. Here we are, the Gold Cup is about to start. How do you think that the lack of playing time for a lot of the core players, how is that going to affect this team against a US team that clearly has something to prove?
It's obviously going to affect it. Even Dennis himself has regularly bemoaned the lack of competitive fixtures and competitive minutes for a number of his players. So that extra bit of sharpness, the team is just not going to have. So it's just to see how much they can produce at this point in time. Luckily, majority of the players that he ideally will be looking to start are those foreign-based ones who have the optimum level based comparatively to the majority of the squad available. So it's just to see if they are able to gel together once again to try and get a result.
And we spoke about players, dropping out of the squad. Sheldon Bateau,
Right.
His exit was a bit of a surprise. Do you think that, players, obviously he's been around, he's essentially a senior player on the team. Do you think his absence affects the team in any significant way?
I think for sure Sheldon is one of the leaders of the team alongside the likes of Highland and Marvin, etc. So Sheldon at the back in terms of that stability and that influence off the pitch as well, lending that experience will be a massive miss, as well as also the likes of Attila Guerra. Be missing goals, and Attila Guerra produces or has the capability to produce that bit of magic.
It seems like, Attila Guerra, for one reason or the other, always misses out. He's a player that both of us know really well, very talented player. He's famously known for that ball with Messi. Stay tuned, EXTV has something with that. A little plug there. But basically, Attila Guerra is a player I always wanted to see on the national team. And for whatever reason, he always, if it's not fitness or, some issue. So I think Dennis has all these problems going into the game. I have to admit, that I have some... It must be difficult for a coach where you have this squad of players in mind, and then really close to the tournament, you lose a whole bunch of them. It really tests his knowledge and also the pool, his knowledge of the pool of Trinidad and Tobago. And it will be difficult heading into this game, especially playing USA in your first game. What do you think Dennis Lawrence needs to do to ensure that, we get a positive result and try to get out of the group? Based on all those things.
Because we didn't even mention Aubrey David, who was a stalwart even under Stephen Hart, and missing him out as well, and that influence would be massive. But really and truly, Dennis has to try and get that transition between the midfield and the attack to click. To his credit, especially in the earlier games, he has had the defense in terms of organized positionally. You could see that, at least you could see that there is a defined structure. But what it is, we just break down in transition. We don't have that fluidity from the defense to the midfield to the attack, etc. he needs to find some sort of solution to get that midfield to the attack better and quicker, because we have quick players. We need to start using them better.
Because I saw, like, I looked at the Thailand game, with great difficulty once again, but I saw it. And it did create some chances in that game. But once again, as you said, goal scoring is a very real problem for Trinidad and Tobago. And listen, you're going to have to score goals. We're at the stage now where we are at an international tournament. And as you said, finishing in the final third, we don't seem to have that balance yet because, in the friendlies, yes, we conceded some goals. Fitness is an issue. But that has to be a worrying concern for Dennis Lawrence. He is heavily going to rely on, the strikers that we mentioned before to deliver the goods for him. And the statistics don't bode well. It hasn't, and he's been trying, and I've saw some of the games, and it did create chances, and guys that normally should finish didn't. So it is a worry. So honestly, a final verdict on Trinidad's chances of defeating the US.
Because the US have been in such poor form, that is probably the best thing that bodes well for Trinidad and Tobago right now, because they're probably in equally as poor form in terms of morale, in terms of personnel and everything. So I could even see this as coming out as a stalemate.
Okay, so just to jump quickly to the US, because, obviously we are Trinidadians, Trinbagonians, but we have to speak about the US. They're a team that is in transition. Make no mistake, they spend large amounts of money. Taylor Twellman and many other guys were very, very vocal about what took place a couple of months ago when we defeated them. And they did not have a good qualifying campaign. Shaka and I also had a discussion about it, that we even fancied our chances because the US was so poor. In fact, it was a bit of foreshadowing, like we were saying that it's actually highly possible. We didn't think it was going to happen. We thought they would have done the USA thing and grind out a result.
Yeah, the usual.
But they didn't. And you thought, even I did some blogs thinking that, the US are a proud nation and they would bounce back. And they haven't seemed to get any sort of new footing at all. I thought it would have galvanized the US, and if you look at their friendlies, they look pretty dismal, and this is me putting it lightly. The US does not look convincing heading into this tournament.
Yeah, they've gone in a completely different direction. It's a full youth brigade right now, but they would have, of course, hoped between that not going to Russia and now heading into this summer, a year later, that the gelling and the plan and the forward thinking and movement would at least be in place, where players, positions, and the personnel would all be clicking in one. But as we've seen, that is not working for them. And it's really difficult to determine where exactly they go, because they've lost important players, like I mentioned, Tyler Adams, who is probably one of the most versatile, and Leipzig signed him recently. He is able to fill numerous roles quite effectively for them. So that is a major loss. And then they would, of course, right now they're banking on Josie Altidore to find form, and Michael Bradley once again to try and pull through the midfield.
Yeah, and Michael Bradley has been a solid warrior for the United States. He's a player I actually really like. I really enjoyed that a player from our region was in Syria doing well at Roma. Admittedly, I have a Michael Bradley jersey because I think he's a talented player, and I think the US, he's a good reference point for the United States. However, they have lots of problems. There's a lot of young players. This is a team that, as I said at the beginning of this point, clearly, I think, transitioning from not just a new squad of players, but trying to get back into that winning mold. And it seems as if it's more difficult than they expected. So, with that being said, who do you think is a key player for them in this particular matchup?
I think it's obviously Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic is going to be key for them in this entire tournament, and the way how things are shaping up, he's going to have to put them on his back. He's going to have to put on his cape and produce that little bit of magic. There are a good few young, good players around him. He himself is already young. They have Schalke's Weston McKennie and a couple others there. He needs to try and galvanize, pick them up, and carry them somewhere.
The former Dortmund, now Chelsea man, for all you Chelsea fans out there, is definitely going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders. He was the one bright spot in the qualifiers. He was the guy that, ground out some results for them when he comes in with his attacking runs from the right. He scored a lot of goals from that direction. So, for Trinidad and Tobago, who do you think is the key player?
I think it's going to end up being the man who saved us versus Japan. Marvin had an astronomically good performance versus Japan. and he is going to be called into question. Traditionally, in the Gold Cups, we've had excellent displays, especially from our goalkeepers in very specific matches. Marvin is going to need to come up big again.
Okay, so the endings of our Twitter polls are pretty even, to be honest. It's 50-50. 50 for the US, of course, and 50 for Trinidad and Tobago. So, final verdict, there's no sitting on the fence. What do you think the final score is going to be?
I think it's going to be 1-1.
It's going to be a 1. I think it's actually going to be a narrow victory for Trinidad and Tobago. I'm going to go all out there. I know everybody's like, what? Yeah, Trinidad. Maybe that's the biasness. I don't know. Maybe that's not very analytical, because I think what I saw in those friendlies, and I know some of these players, and you know them as well. You know, I'm being optimistic. I think it will be a smash and grab. It will not be a pretty win.
Yeah, no,
I think we are definitely going to probably optimistically, with a lot of things going our way, because a lot of things have not been going our way. I think Trinidad may be able to sneak a victory over a very wounded USA. They are not the USA of before that had a psychological hold. We had stronger players before, back in the days with, you know, York and Latipi and those guys. And oftentimes, I think they defeated us mentally. I think that's not the case now, and I think we have a shot at taking them out. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think I'm crazy, be speaking complete insanity, or do you think, you know, the US is going to be a tie? Let us know what you think. We love the comments you all have. Very, very, very in-depth comments we get. We have literally paragraph-long comments. These guys don't mess around, and gals. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think Trinidad is going to win? Do you think USA is going to win? Our American fans, let us know what you think. So with that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe, because when you do that, you automatically qualify for a chance to win a copy of FIFA 19 from the kind folks of my store. Thanks for watching. If you want to check out more, look at this video. And don't forget to click the subscribe button, because when you do, one of your enemies will be destroyed.